So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! It is wild card weekend, and with a ton of great matchups this week, the Detroit Lions potentially have the most interesting one, as the number 3 seeded Detroit Lions are set to host the number 6 seeded Los Angeles Rams. Now, over the last 3 years, of course, there have been a ton of connections between the Rams and the Detroit Lions. Brad Holmes came from the Rams. Obviously, the Rams traded for Matthew Stafford. Josh Reynolds is from the Rams. There are a ton of front office members. There are multiple coaches from both teams. There are multiple players who have played for both teams, and with all of the interlocking and interconnecting storylines, this is one of, if not the most hyped up game of wildcard weekend for the 2023 NFL season. And today we are going to break down this game. We're going to take a look at how the Lions and Rams match up against each other, their strengths and weaknesses, where each team can go to win the football game, and how each team can actually walk away and advance to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. So, starting off with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are the same team they've been all year, with an elite offense and an okay defense. They finished the season ranked as the number 2 passing attack in the NFL, the number 5 rushing attack in the NFL, with David Montgomery eclipsing 1,000 yards in Week 18 and Jahmyr Gibbs being within 50 yards of 1,000 rushing yards and well over 1,200 scrimmage yards on the year. They finished as the number 5 scoring offense in the NFL, and they ranked among the NFL's elites for the second season in a row. The defense, on the other hand, has been pretty poor, ranking as the 27th pass defense in the NFL and the 23rd scoring defense in the NFL. But the one bright spot on the defense is going to be that rushing defense, being the second best in the NFL, only behind the Chicago Bears. Being the second best in the NFL, only behind, I believe, the Baltimore Ravens for the number 1 rushing defense in all of football. They have been phenomenal all year, and as of recently, they've even been getting better, getting guys like Aleem McNeil back to the active roster and getting a little bit more depth on that defensive line. It's only improving day by day. The Detroit Lions pass defense should also get a boost with Cam Sutton being fully healthy for the first time in a couple weeks, as well as potential explosive pass rusher James Houston returning for the first time since Week 2 when he fractured his leg against the Seattle Seahawks. So the pass rush should get a little bit of help. The pass defense should be a little bit improved, and the run defense is already elite. And of course, we know that over the last month, the Lions defense has been much better. They gave up 24 points to Minnesota a few weeks ago to win the NFC North. They went into Dallas, where Dallas was averaging 40 points a game, and walked away only allowing 20. And of course, they then rematched against the Minnesota Vikings in Week 18, where they allowed just 20 points, despite allowing a massive day from a yardage perspective from Justin Jefferson. The weeks before that, they also allowed, I believe, just 17 points to Denver. So for the last month of the season, they've only allowed about 18, 19 points a game. And for a defense that's ranked 23rd in the NFL in scoring, averaging about 19 a game is not bad. And it is a great time for the Lions to get in form for a playoff push. The Rams, on the other hand, are kind of like the Detroit Lions, but a little bit more averaged out. They ranked as the 10th best passing offense in the NFL this year and the 11th best rushing offense in the NFL. Kyren Williams is a Pro Bowl running back, and Matthew Stafford is a Pro Bowl quarterback for this team. Of course, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are major contributors on this offense as well, with Puka Nacua being a Pro Bowler for his rookie season and breaking the all-time rookie record for both receptions and receiving yards. The Rams overall in the season ranked as the 8th best scoring offense. So even though they're not quite as prolific as the Detroit Lions, they are very much still a top 10 offense. And I would even argue, are probably closer to that 6-7 range than they are to the bottom of that 9, 10, 11 range. However, on defense, they aren't quite as good. Although they are better and more balanced than the Lions, they rank as the 20th pass defense in the NFL, the 12th rushing defense in the NFL, and the 19th scoring defense in the NFL. They are not nearly the rush defense that the Detroit Lions are, but they are still number 12 in the NFL, and they are still well above average from where most teams are in that statistical rank. They're the 20th ranked passing defense, which isn't great, but it is better than what the Detroit Lions are hosting, and they are the 19th best scoring defense, which again is not great, is below average, but is still better than what the Detroit Lions have hosted. So they are a slightly better defense than Detroit, but they are a slightly less explosive and less high scoring offense than the Detroit Lions, which I think sets up for a really high scoring playoff game and a very close playoff game between two teams that have similar identities and also have very similar weaknesses on both sides of the football. Now, taking a look at some key injuries and some key things to note for this game, the Rams have a lot of injuries going into this game, and the Detroit Lions are, for the most part, getting pretty healthy. With Joe Noteboom, their starting guard, being out with a foot injury, he has not practiced either Wednesday or Thursday, or yet to understand. We are yet to know if they have practiced on Friday. However, it looks a little bit questionable for him to play, as well as starting safety Jordan Fuller, who's been out with an ankle and has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday. And the same thing goes for Troy Reeder, who is out with a knee injury, who did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday either. Starting offensive tackle Rob Havenstein is resting / NIR. He did not practice on Wednesday, but did fully practice on Thursday, so he should be expected to go. Kevin Dotson has been limited in practice for the Rams all week with a shoulder injury, and Tyler Higbee, the starting tight end, has also been limited in practice with a shoulder injury for the majority of the week. For the Detroit Lions side of things, Sam Laporta has not practiced for most of the week with his knee injury that he suffered during the week 18 matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings, but he has been going through walkthroughs and was working on the side with trainers quite a bit. Dan Campbell was asked even this morning about the possibility of Sam Laporta playing. He said, we're probably going to know a lot more by the end of the day after today's practices, and he had a really big smile on his face, not guaranteeing that Sam Laporta was going to play. However, it seemed pretty heavily implied that Sam Laporta was going to have a chance and that they were going to do everything they could to get Sam Laporta on the field. Khalif Raymond did not practice with his knee injury sustained versus the Minnesota Vikings. It seems like almost a guarantee that our starting kick and punt returner is not going to play in the wild card weekend, could potentially return for the divisional round if the Lions make it so far. But for the wild card, it seems very unlikely that Khalif Raymond will be manning the kick and punt returns, which is a real shame because obviously he had a great week 18 before getting hurt. I think 50 yards receiving as well as 2 or 3 huge punt returns for the Detroit Lions up to the midfield. He is a huge part of this football team, and I'm not exactly sure who's going to replace the punt return aspect. Potentially, there's a lot of rumors that it could be Donovan Peoples-Jones or the newly appointed All-Pro Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that is yet to be seen. Backup tight end James Mitchell has been limited all week with a hand injury. He was full practice on Wednesday and injured his hand sometime between the end of practice Wednesday and the start of practice on Thursday. He was limited, although he is still very much expected to play. And then the rest of the guys that have not been playing very recently, whether that be due to illness or nagging injuries, have been fully practicing. Brian Branch is fully practicing. John Kaminsky's fully practicing. James Houston is fully at practice. Cam Sutton is at full practice. Jameson Williams is at full practice, as well as Brock Wright being on the field for the Detroit Lions all week long. Another thing to keep in mind is that Teddy Bridgewater did practice on Wednesday and wasn't even really listed on the practice report, but did miss practice on Thursday due to a personal issue as specified by the Detroit Lions. Don't know exactly what that was or what that is, but that is also something to potentially keep an eye on, as Teddy Bridgewater did actually, I believe, miss a game for the Detroit Lions for personal matters early in the season. Now, as far as these two teams go, I think that they're going to have to play their brand of football to win these games. And I think there's going to be two outcomes to this game. There's either going to be one where the Rams win pretty convincingly and the Lions aren't prepared, or it's going to be, I think, a pretty close game and the Detroit Lions are going to be able to walk out with a high-scoring offense and a couple turnovers and a couple massive plays on defense, playing their bend, don't break style. So we'll take about the Rams first. I think the way the Rams win this game is that the interior pressure has to get to Jared Goff. I don't think their edge rushers are going to be very good against Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker, a great, I would argue, top 5 tackle duo in the NFL right now. And even though Frank Ragnow was great, a second-team All-Pro, I don't necessarily have the same confidence in our guards that I do on our center and our tackles. Our guards have given up a lot of interior pressure this season. The Lions are actually, I believe, bottom 10 in the NFL in pressure allowed from the interior of the offensive line. They're a great run blocking unit, and when they play their game, they are elite guards. Both Jonah Jackson and Graham Glasgow have been great at points this season, but they have not played a duo like Aaron Donald and the rookie defensive tackle, whose name is escaping me at the moment, but I know he has 9 sacks on the season and has been really, really good for the Los Angeles Rams. If that interior pressure can get home, I think that they're going to be able to force a couple fumbles, force a couple turnovers, get the Lions behind the chains early and take the rushing game out of it, make the Lions one-dimensional, make the Detroit Lions play from behind, whether that be a defensive touchdown or big defensive turnover early to go up by 7, 10 points on the day. And I think if the Lions are playing from behind and that interior pressure can get to Goff consistently, the Rams are going to be able to win this game in a convincing fashion, like how the Bears did at Soldier Field or like how the Green Bay Packers did on Thanksgiving. But on the flip side, I do think the Lions are going to have a good chance at this. I think if the Lions are able to score first, they're able to get up on the board, they will be able to control the clock. If they can stay in front of the chains, if they can keep the rushing attack involved, if they cannot get behind the chains, I think that the rushing attack can very much take over this game. On defense, if they can stop the run early and they can make it a one-dimensional offense, I think that's actually going to play into the advantage of the Detroit Lions. I know that obviously Cooper Kupp is very good. I know that obviously Puka Nacua is an amazing wide receiver. But even let's say that they both have great days, right? Let's say that they both go for 150 and a touchdown apiece. If you can shut down Kyren Williams and keep him out of the end zone, if you can make it a one-dimensional passing game and pick off Matthew Stafford once, or even better, obviously twice on the day, it doesn't necessarily matter that you're giving up 300 passing yards to 2 wide receivers on the day. If you can hold them to 15, 14, 21 points, that gives your offense an opportunity to win the game. They can bend as much as they want, but if they play like the last month where they haven't really broken too many times, I think that's where they're going to be able to win the game. So stop the run early, take Kyren Williams out of it as much as possible, force the Rams to throw. And again, even if they get 150 each, even if Cooper Kupp goes for 200 and Puka goes for 150, if they get up 350 passing yards to 2 wide receivers, but they only find the end zone once or twice, that's going to put you in a position to win the game. And at the end, yeah, Matthew Stafford might have 400 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but if he has 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, that 1 pick could be the difference of the game. If you can keep Kyren Williams with a fat 0 on the scoreboard, that's going to help you win games. And that's what the Detroit Lions have done over the last month. Yeah, they've given up massive days to Justin Jefferson both times. They've given up massive days to CeeDee Lamb against Dallas, right? CeeDee Lamb had 200 receiving yards. Justin Jefferson, I think, had 160, 170 both times around and scored a touchdown in both, if I remember correctly. And yet in those games, the Detroit Lions held those teams to 20 points, and they were able to put up 31 both times versus the Vikings. They were able to put up 19, but really 21 and put themselves in a position to win versus the Dallas Cowboys. And I think if the Lions can play that brand of football, they are going to be in a position to win the game, which is why I do think that whoever wins the coin toss is going to take the ball first, because I think whoever scores first in this matchup is going to be at a significant advantage to win this style of game. With all that being said, with all the injuries being taken into account, with the health factors being factored in, with obviously the home field advantage and the depth and the talent on both rosters and the coaching overall, I do think the Detroit Lions will walk out as a 31-26 victor over the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, the home field advantage is huge for the Detroit Lions. I think they have more depth on both sides of the ball, and I think just overall, their 53-man roster is a more talented 53 than what the Los Angeles Rams are going to be putting on. With that being said, I do think that the Rams probably have a better coaching staff. I think that Sean McVay is one of the elite coaches in the NFL, but I don't think the gap between Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson is that large between them and Sean McVay. So I think even though the Rams have an advantage there, I think the Lions have more advantages than they have disadvantages going into this game. Again, I think the first quarter and really the first half is very much going to decide how this game plays out and how this game finishes. But with all that being said, I do trust the Lions to take the ball. I do trust the Detroit Lions to score first versus a relatively average to below average defense. And I do expect them to be able to run the ball. I do expect them to be able to put up 28, 31 points. And over the last month, their defense has shown that even though the wide receivers might have huge yardage days, at the end of the day, they're going to give up 24 to 20 points. And that's going to put you in positions to win a lot of football games. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Let me know how you think this is going to go. Let me know how you think this playoff game is going to turn out. Do you think Stafford walks into Detroit as the big bad wolf and leaves as a victor into the rest of the playoffs? Or do you think the Lions win their first playoff game since 1991 and they end up officially breaking the curse of Bobby Lane and ending the SOL mentality? I'd be very curious what you guys have to say. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so very much for watching. Of course, leave your score predictions in the comments below. And with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys now. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.